And good morning everybody. To those familiar faces who have been to our seminars before, welcome back. And to those faces who perhaps are not so familiar to, my name's Glenn Guilfoyle and I head up the sales team optimisation specialist group called The Next Level. Again, I'm delighted and honoured to have such a well-credentialed panel. Thanks, gentlemen. Pete, as always, the master of all master ceremonies, thank you again. And I'm going to let John introduce himself when I hand the baton over, but John, thank you for co-presenting with me. So we do, at The Next Level, run these seminars. We try and do about 2 or 3 a year. We've been doing them for 2 or 3 years now. And we do so as part of our signing on, I guess, or our unflinching commitment to the noble cause that is sales team optimisation. We believe that for the many thousands of business-to-business sales organisations in mature markets that are under quite a significant amount of pressure at the moment, both commercially and in terms of the justification of having a sales team optimisation truly is a noble cause. And so therefore, we like to present a series of topics to get folk to think about how some of the principles might be applied into your sales organisations. So to that end, when we started this series a couple of years ago, we spoke in the first few sessions about what I call the quantitative element of sales team optimisation. So it's a lot about the modelling, the analytics of, and especially the efficiency side of maximising your investment in your sales team. Of more latter times, the more recent seminars, we've switched over to the more qualitative side of the sales team optimisation piece. And I'm going to delve into that side of things again. Last breakfast seminar, for those of you who were here, I introduced probably the latest or the most profound sales doctrine that's probably come out in the last 10 years, the Challenger Sale. And I am going to delve a bit further into that this morning. Fair to say, I think Neil Rackham, author of Spin Selling, described it as the most profound new set of research and documentation for B2B sales organisations, or probably since Spin Selling was written. And our own Hugh McFarlane, author of Leaky Funnel, founder of Math Marketing, says it's been rocking the sales world since the GFC. So we at The Next Level think it has a lot of profound applications for organisations of the ilk I've described. But I'm going to put it to you this morning, we think there's a missing piece. We think that there's something that they didn't quite get right. And I'm going to put that to you. I'm going to attempt to unparcel and unpack that and give you a how-to navigate around that piece that they missed. So just to then get the ball rolling and round out my introduction. So at The Next Level, we consider ourselves sales team optimisation specialists. So we believe, in fact we passionately believe, that those B2B sales organisations that run their sales team optimisation every year as an integral part of their whole of company budgeting will be the sales organisations and the sales teams that rise above the kind of race to the bottom challenge that many of us are facing and become the true beacons of what it really means to be B4B, not just B2B. Where the sales execs become so enmeshed in the client organisations that the client organisations consider them part of their team, B4B. And so therefore, all we do is we help our clients make that transition. So we specialise in deploying our proprietary sales system to help model, map, design, plan and measure maximum sales team productivity and return. And we do that by working collaboratively, transferring our tools, skills and knowledge to our clients. So that sales system, The Next Level, not only is the name of our company, it's also the name of our sales system. So it is a sales team optimisation and a sales exec effectiveness system that can be tailored for just about any business-to-business sales organisation. And it can be thought of as an end-to-end suite of modelers, designers and mappers to help review, challenge, renew sales team realisation, strategy and benchmark. It's all about optimising sales team process and the team's performance. So, what is sales team optimisation? I don't claim to have the God-given answer. I think there would be all sorts of different definitions to which folk would attach to a term like that. But for what it's worth, to help me try and explain the way we would define it, I'm going to kind of paint a bit of a picture for you. By our counts, there's probably on the Australian landscape around about 40-ish thousand business-to-business sales organisations that lend themselves to a sales team optimisation approach. Now, many will be manufacturers, many will be distributors, some will even be quasi-government agencies. They come in all walks of life. But by our work and our studies, there's kind of four things that tie together these disparate-looking organisations when you look at them at the outset. Firstly, they will have typically at least a handful of your classic road warriors. Your sales team, sales execs out on the road, looking after a patch of customers, whether that be geographic, by segment, by portfolio, whatever. And those sales execs will be applying a large and heterogeneous collection of customers and prospects by way of making repeat visits to align with those customers' needs to make repeat orders of consumable products and services. And the last criteria that sort of ties together these 40,000 organisations that I'm claiming lend themselves to a sales team optimisation approach is that they will tend to have more than one supplier of the product or service in question, and they're forever switching around their loyalty based on a bunch of stuff.
Hey Glenn, heterogeneous, great word. What's it mean?
Mixed. So distributors, value adders, end customers, asset owners. Thanks, John. All right. So I said four criteria. In fact, there's five. The other thing that sort of ties these organisations together is the fact that they're all sub-optimised. The only thing that differs is the amount and the degree to which the head of sales and general managers actually recognise the amount of sub-optimisation. So the technical definition is sales team optimisation is the analytics that aligns sales team design, the sales process, the classification of the customer base and profiling of the prospect pool in order to maximise productivity and return on investment from the resource available. It is the science of engineering a sales team to a tailored system, mobilising resource for best utilisation to get maximum realisation. Now that's a very dry and technical definition, so let's break it down into everyman lay language. It is the notion that a sales organisation puts its sales team into a sales environment whereby everyone has the best crack that every visit being executed is to the right person at the right time, with the right frequency, for the right reason, delivering the right value within the right partnership framework. And it solves the problem of failure to deliver maximum revenue or margin from underproductivity due to the lack of a sales system. Now that all sounds cut and dried and reasonable enough, but there is a but. And the but leads me back to the topic that I alluded to 5 minutes ago. Optimise. Optimise what? Optimise usually connotes the notion of efficiency. But optimisation from a sales team optimisation perspective is very much about the effectiveness side of things as well. So when that sales exec is turning up at the right time, at the right frequency, with the right reason, and they've got their hour in the sunshine in front of the customer or the prospect, to what degree as sales organisations are we confident that they're actually doing the right things when they get that hour in the sunshine? And that's what I think needs to be challenged first before you then run your optimisation. And my use of the word challenge in this context does help me segue back to the Challenger sale and everything that the research that CEB, Corporate Executive Board, conducted and then wrote up in their findings, interpretations and recommendations through this doctrine. So, the context, before I go into the piece that I think is missing, the context for these sorts of organisations that I'm alluding to. The organisations that typically would find this very valuable and lend themselves to sales team optimisation will be in mature markets that typically have not yet been disrupted. Possibly as a result of that, these markets are characterised by a relative lack of innovation and then consequent commoditisation. The customer perceives that they're all the options, supplier options, are pretty similar. There's increasing competition, quite often global and coming in at much cheaper price options. And typically these markets are characterised over the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years by the rise of e-commerce and the educated customer who doesn't arguably need the sales exec to educate them on the applications of the products and services anymore. They've done all that research themselves. So all these things are putting pressure on the relevance and the justification of having an expensive sales team. Further, this economics in a market like this create this horrible race to the bottom, which is a term that seems to be used a lot more these days, where commoditisation reigns and all the customer is asking the sales exec for is come and see me when you're ready to sharpen your pencil. We also tend to see in markets like this trends towards consolidation, centralisation, so the big get bigger, they mop up the little guys, and we see that a lot in these sorts of markets. Again, putting pressure on the justification of having a sales team, because buying decisions are often then centralised. And these sorts of organisations have, for arguably forever, had difficulty in assessing sales execs' productivity and effectiveness. And as all these trends have amplified, this point has also amplified. So it's harder for us to actually assess the value and what is a good exec doing and what is an average one doing. So all of this puts pressure on justification for sales organisations to spend their $1, $2, $3, $5 million every year to mobilise the sales team. That's the environment that we're talking about, that many of us live in, that pieces of research like this have relevance against.
Glenn, Clinton mentioned that in his initial words, but the solution selling, I would think, also sits under the second point. So lack of innovation and lack of solution selling,
Yep.
and consequent commoditisation.
Yep.
That's what we've seen.
Yep. Yep, fair point. All right, so one of the first things, and just as a very quick recap for those who were here last seminar, and at the same time a very quick sort of introduction for those who weren't, I'm just going to spend the next 5 minutes just pulling back out the main points I covered last time to give you the context of the point I want to go to this morning. So one of the first things they speak about in this book challenges what we all hold as near and dear, and that is relationship is really important, and a good sales exec is going to be a very good relationship manager, and that's going to lead to success. Their research says that notion is now significantly under challenge, and they write about a decoupling of relationship and the purchasing decision. In other words, the customer can have a fantastic relationship with the sales exec, but buy from the competitor. And they speak therefore about the rise of the so-called challenger selling. And the characteristics there is that the notion of challenger selling is that you offer unique perspectives to the customer. And there is a strong two-way communication skill set at play. The challenger seller knows the customer value drivers, can identify the economic drivers to touch on, is comfortable discussing money, and can actually pressure the customer. So in their research, they describe 5 types of sellers, and fair to say, they do tell us that it's not like everyone fits neatly into one box. Everyone will have a mixture of these characteristics, but equally well, sales execs tend to have a dominant characteristic. So they speak about the hard worker, the problem solver, the lone wolf, and the relationship manager. And the 5th one they call the challenger. And they claim through their research that it's the challenger rep, or those sales execs that exude more of the challenger characteristics that tend these days in the new world order that we live in to be the ones that bring the most sales and commercial success to the organisation. So the selling key features is that they teach. They teach the customer. Then they tailor the sales messages according to what they've taught, and they take control of the whole end-to-end sales process. Just to flesh that out a tiny bit further, teach is to deliver insights that help the customer reframe and see their world differently. Teach them something they didn't know. Teach them something in all the research that they've done that they missed or were blindsided to. Then contextualise any sales messages according to the outputs of that teaching. And take control, leveraging some constructive tension. So the relationship manager will shy away from creating tension with the customer. The challenger deliberately looks for it and strategically uses it to advantage. So teaching the customers what they don't know, but should. So offering unique, valuable perspectives on the market, helping the customer navigate the various alternatives, provide ongoing advice and consultation, and helping avoid landmines that the customer may need to tiptoe through as they navigate their way forward. So it's about educating on new issues and outcomes. But they do make the point strongly, not just teaching for teaching's sake, but what they call commercial teaching. And again, for those of you who were here last time, you might remember I then using their words, describe that as leading to your unique strengths, not leading with, but leading to, challenging customer assumptions and being confident to do so, and then catalysing actions. And it needs to be scaled across the organisation. The point being, you don't leave your individual sales execs to figure it out for themselves. The organisation must develop the challenger approach, process, skills, competencies for the sales execs, whose job then is to execute. And they use this model to help define what they describe commercial teaching as, against an axis of the actual stages of the conversation and the journey, and a vertical axis of how the customer's feeling as the sales exec leads them through the warm-up, the reframe, drowning them in the intensity and the data of the reframe, bringing it back up to an emotional impact so that the customer sees and feels and says, yes, that is me, all the way then up to a value proposition in a new way, and then finally, yes, we have a solution to now help you. I think, from our perspective, and we've probably done over 100 or so, 120 or so of our own sales team optimisation studies across different sort of B2B industries, different sorts of industries. And I think it's fair to say we do tend to kid ourselves a little bit. In B2B, Main Street sales organisations in Australia, we tend to think that our sales execs do have business relationships with our customers, and we're not just conducting transactional sales relationships. But I think when you really read this and think about what they're saying, I believe
Still today, most sales organisations and the sales execs conduct transactional sales relationships, not really true business relationships with customers. And that's the opportunity. But, as I said at the outset, I believe there's a missing piece as you think about applying the principles and the teachings to your organisation. So I'm actually going to stop for 7 minutes and play a YouTube clip. And the YouTube clip I've selected is from the authors, Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson from CEB, Corporate Executive Board. And it's taken from a seminar like this that they conducted, where they've used an example, a case study example, to actually describe and bring this model to life. And just to give you the background, the case study, the organisation that they're going to refer to is a company called Dentsply. Now, Dentsply is a leading supplier of tools and equipment into the dentistry industry. And in this particular case study, they talk about Dentsply making a significant